Hey folks, welcome back to the Big Barn Build. Have we learnt any lessons? We're laying more concrete, we're laying blocks and generally pretending to know what we're doing. But stick around and we'll make a start. It's not a deja vu, we are back on the concrete again. It's the 24 hours later and we're not recovered, but we probably haven't learned any lessons either, but we're going to get going on it. We've got half an hour. There's a 6 cube batch coming and it's another slab. And today this is going to go to plan. We haven't left ourselves that much time, but should be all right. On this end we've had all that shuttering and a huge pour, and it's worked really well. So all the plywood came off pretty straightforward, and I'll give you a look at what it's looking like now. Good bit of engineering that, I'd say. We've still got 2 blocks and a brick height to go on top of here, so all being well we'll be able to use up most of this. And then of course we've got all the type 1 or crushed concrete we can add in. Today we're looking at some absolute monster blocks and hopefully get most of them laid in along this back edge. So this is what they look like. They are trench blocks that are 300 deep. Remember, all of our cavity walls are 300 deep, so it makes sense to use these on the lower courses. These were destined for that end pool wall, but we're not doing that anymore. So we've ended up with 80 of these to use up, and they are a bit more expensive. After all, the other option is to do 2 courses of solids and then backfill the cavity. Although that's just a simple lean mix, it's still concrete, so that takes time. You've got to lay 2 courses, which takes more time. These are £5 a block, roughly, and obviously the concrete blocks are about £1.10 or whatever it is. So I don't know, it probably ends up similar by the time you factor in the labour and the concrete backfill. Anyway, we're going to lay them along here. Not laid them before, they look a bit clumsy, but they should go in relatively quickly, I hope. We are set where we need it off our laser point, and we've pulled a string iron all the way through. It's about 16 metres, but because obviously it's tight as you can have it, there's always a bit of a sag, so we've just got it exactly where we need it in the middle as well. And that should now clear all our seals on the outside. There's just, this seal's a little bit off centre, so we're just going to have to notch around that on the second course, but that's okay. blocks are here going in. We're about halfway through them, or beyond halfway. They're a weird material to be working with. The tolerances on them are all over the place. So they're tongue and groove, so they're meant to slot together, but as much as you try, they just don't line up. Here, for example, you know, this block here, it stands off 3 or 4 mil. I know they're meant to be underground and you're never meant to see them, but it's quite hard when you're trying to lay to a string line to try and get them to line up. So actually just quickly checking the distance from the edge of the block to tongue with a tape measure, because some of them, I don't know if they're a different batch or a different part, but some of them join perfectly, some of them don't. Anyway, this is as far as we've got. You do get through quite a bit of mortar, but they're going in nice and quick, and hopefully now we'll be able to get to the end and then we'll switch to having back to our cavity. We've only got 1 block and a brick to go on here now, so they're not the nicest things to work with, but they're doing the job, I guess. Weird things, really. Nearing the end of these frustratingly clumsy blocks. We obviously haven't used these before, but maybe some of you have, so let me know what is going on with these. These are from the same batch, same pallet. They're only made 2 weeks ago. So they come with these handholds, as demonstrated, and they have a tongue and groove. So they've got a tongue there, if you can see, and then it kind of sits in there. But they're so mismatched that they don't go into each other, which means you end up with a gap anyway, and you can't force them in. Some of them do match up.
This is closed nicely, but it's stepped,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, so then you end up with a step as well, and the handholds don't line up. It just seems like a really stupidly made product. It just seems like all of those things could be avoided. These are definitely from the same batch as well, so just weird. Right, we remembered this time to put our drain lintel in, so we've got 1 there, but we do need to go back in here and put 1 in because we forgot. Comes through about here, I think. We've just about got enough sand, I think, to carry on, because we got through, what do you reckon, half a bag?
Yeah, half a bag.
Half a bulk bag of sand to just lay those, because it's such a big bed. And then we've gone in and just filled all the little handholds. I don't know if that locks them together at all or it just smooths it off, but that is what you're meant to do. So there we go. Now we'll do 1 course of thermo on the inside, 1 course of commons on the outside, and then a block on both, and this end will be done. Right, exciting little delivery while we're laying our blocks. We've got our drawings arrived. Even though we've been building for about 4 months, we've been doing it all from just a screen. So now we've got some drawings, and apparently they're indestructible, which is good around here, because they'll probably get chewed by pigs or something like that. Oh, that was quite satisfying. Feel a bit heavy duty. Look at that.
Oh my word.
It's like banner material.
That's quite exciting.
He even did a ha-ha drawing for us. Oh, we've done that stage already. So,
Yeah, there's loads of them.
last mix of the day, and it just seems to be giving and giving. I've got about probably 2 or 3 more blocks left, but yeah, it's just about workable. We're almost there on this outside skin, and then we can leave that, work on the inside, and then return around the corner. It's a bit odd trying to get the bonds right, because obviously we've got the big blocks below, got the thermo, and we've got the bricks, you know, the commons. So it's just a bit of a stagger, and I put a half block halfway along just to kind of reset myself, but I don't think it matters too much. All of that's below ground level anyway, so it's just kind of the footing really. No need to tie on this wall because we've got the blocks spanning the whole thing. The rest of them, obviously we had ties every other course. First up, I come to you with quite sad news that Humpty Dumpty's been given his death sentence. We had another mechanic out who really does know these engines. Now he, within the first few minutes, said he probably thought it was quite bad and wasn't worth looking into too much more, but I said, look, can we just spend an hour or two, or can I pay him an hour or two to go in a bit deeper? So he took the whole head off the engine and actually found a crack in the block, which sounds like, oh, we could just sort that somehow if you know what you're doing, but the more he went into it, he just said it's quite risky. Well, it's a big job to try and fix what's there, especially because there's a bit of metal off one of the injectors or something somewhere, or rings, so it's pretty much terminal for Humpty Dumpty unless we were to replace the engine, which sounds fine, but we could spend, I don't know, 1,500 quid, 2 grand on getting a new engine here sorted, installed, and then something else go. I still don't feel like I can get rid of it just yet, because 300 quid scrap is not great. What makes it worse is a week before I got the mechanic here thinking, let's do this, let's get him back on the road. I paid to get a new tyre put on, brand new tyre, which has probably cost me the same amount as I'm going to get for the whole thing for scrap. And I could end up taking it apart and trying to sell the wheels, a set of wheels for it and things like that. But then I'm left with a wheelless dumper, and that we all know will be here for years. So I'm really lost for what to do. I think I'm going to park it up over there, see what ideas people come up with. Obviously I could get the tyre taken back off here and then have the thing dragged off. So that's a bit depressing, but we've got a backup, which is our one from Speedy, which has been here for a while. I mean, in the whole scheme of things, he's tiny, but it beats the wheelbarrow. So I'm just carting a bit of this over to fill up some of the deeper voids over in the subfloor. We'll then compact it in layers and then move on to the Type 1 for the top sort of 100mm, and then sand on top of that. Right, as tempting as it is to just keep going, we want to make sure it's compacted in really small layers. We've got a small whacker plate for now. We do have a vibrating roller coming in the future, but I want to do that when everything is in and we can that'll still get a decent compaction, even once we're up to just before the sand blinding. It's mainly in the garden room patio area where we just need to bring up the levels a bit more than what we need to do with type 1. So as a reminder, we're coming up to the bottom of this common, so a bit more to go. We've used a bit of the crushed concrete and stone in here, but then we'll switch to the type 1 finer 40mm down in a minute. So all of that again around here where we had the steel footing for the steel, there's just a bit more to fill, so we'll even it out, compact it in layers, and we'll be good to go. So things that have changed, well, things that have changed since the previous video, if I can remember back that far, we started getting in a few of the internal walls. So this is where we had a strip footing poured in here, then we've got one block on its bed, and then the thermo block to give us that thermal break, plus that internal block, or the kind of warm block I'm calling it. So our insulation is actually going to sit this height up to here, then the concrete slab up to the top of the block. Whereas we have stud walls elsewhere in the building just sat on our structural slab, this one here is going to support the first floor mezzanine and also carry on up to our rafters, the steel rafters in the roof. So that's why it's got a footing and why that we've put a concrete wall in. Then we've got the opening, so that's a glazed opening from what is sort of an entrance porch. So the front door is set back, that's why there's a kind of a rough horseshoe shape there. That's the entry sort of lobby with some rooms coming off it. And then this is a glazed opening with sort of crystal doors or something like that. We'll probably end up leaving that until later on, probably after we've moved in. So that'll just be an opening. That's why there's a gap there, and that concrete will just be underneath the insulation. And then here again we need to carry that structural stud wall on, so that's just a doorway into a downstairs toilet. Pretty much done the same sort of thing down this end, which is where we've got a hallway going through and another gap here going off to 2 further rooms. So that will have a stud wall on top of it with some steels over the top, and then the steel will actually tie in across this way to the steel we got in a few weeks back, and there's a cantilever section which will carry the staircase that comes up to it. Looking pretty much finished this side as far as up to DPC. The back is all finished, so that's got those big blocks at the bottom which we've now got a load left over which we don't need, and then we've got a couple of lintels where the drainage is going to go through. For the time being we've brought our levels up outside just to the top of our footing really, but we can then dig our drainage into this. We're just gonna, this will settle a bit anyway, and then we'll kind of forget about outside here, and then we have the option of either doing a block and beam structure out here or a suspended slab. It'll probably be a suspended slab, and it can sit on that ledge and on the structural wall over here, just because this is not as compacted as it once was. There used to be a concrete slab on here. We've had to dig down quite deep against the building here, so just to cover ourselves, a suspended slab is probably a good option there. So there we go, bit of a jumbled update, but we're slowly getting to a point where we can look at getting these walls up. In the next video we're going to be sharing far more detail on the thermoblock element of this build, because it's something that a few people have asked about and it's a little bit unique. So this weekend we'll be sharing the ins and outs of how we laid them, why we laid them, and what they're all about. Apart from that, any questions, leave them down in the comments section below. More updates over on Instagram. We'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.